I thought I was just over with. Oh, good morning, everyone. And the first thing I want you to do right now is to remember that one person that's not here right now and say good morning to them. That's what I want. I need you to bring them in here with you, tap them on the shoulders or let them tap you on your shoulders because, as I said, you're not alone. You take time, grief takes time, love takes time, but time is what we have. Time right now, and the things that you learned, the things that was taught to you, the things that you're living right now is something that someone gave you in the past. And I can always bring up a saying from my mother, my grandmother, my teachers that I haven't seen in a few years that is still living with me, still carrying me forward. And that is what grief is. It's carrying you forward. It's having you think and reach out and touch and love and cry and miss. But it continues. Your life continues because of the past, because you what you were taught, what you remember, and it puts a smile on your face because they may not be able to, you may not be able to touch and reach out physically, but spiritually, that spirit is never going away. Jan, I think. Hello, Jan.
Hi. So, obviously, we all have different takes on this topic. And I'm going to first respond to Joan's talk because the person I go to is my dad. And he would probably be very happy to be here because he always liked a good discussion. And I'm convinced that, he would be delighted that I'm now a practitioner because I think he always wanted me to settle on something. When I was a teenager, I didn't go to the church that my parents went to, my brother went to, but my dad offered to squire me around. So we used to go to different churches. Um, can't say I remember any of them, can't say that they really made an impact on me at the time, but they ranged, from soup to nuts. And since my dad had a sense of humor, he might appreciate this, but I think part of his concern was I used to have a bumper sticker. I was quite the bumper sticker and little buttons with sayings. And one of my bumper stickers said that heaven and hell is afraid I'll take over. So I'm sure he would be just overjoyed that I'm now a practitioner. So I am the last remaining living member of my nuclear family. So one could surmise I have plenty of grief over that. Yet it's really the families we create that we are closest to. But I still think of my dad, and he's been gone since 2007. You know what? After somebody dies, what I find you're always running into things. Oh, I got to call and tell so and so. Then you remember they're dead. So with our prayer practitioner practice, we have a way to talk to people even after they go. So I live in gratitude. I believe in it. I think it's one of the best tools we have. And long before my parents passed, I came across a book called Making Peace with Your Parents. Anybody who needs that issue, find that book. It's still around. So my gratitude towards my mother is that her craziness made me strong. She was what we used to call a paranoid schizophrenic, and boy, you could be talking about one topic in 1 minute, and the next minute you were talking about things coming through the walls. So I've had quite an interesting experience in my family of origin, as they say. But I'm grateful because her problems made me as strong as I am. Not much rocks my world. And I used to be a really shy kid. Any pictures of me, I'm hiding behind somebody. So those of you who know me now, is I don't hide behind many people. So when my mother was 78, she was in a hospital in Florida. And I got a message from my brother, "Mother is fading rapidly." What did that mean? Anyway, I got on a plane. Actually missed the first one I was supposed to be on. Got on the second one. And I sat with her for several hours. And I was already a massage therapist then, so I knew about things like acupressure and so forth. And what many of you may not know is that in Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, if you will, the kidney meridian is the meridian of life, and it starts on the base of your feet. So I sat there and held her feet, and the medical people say, well, she's brain dead. What does brain dead mean? Okay, brain dead means somebody is dead, people. Because when you feel their kidney meridian and nothing is flowing, it means they're gone. But until my brother, who was then her guardian, could show up, they could not disconnect her life-giving machines. So I learned in that moment what brain dead was. And I sat there and I said, I'm sorry for your life. Because what I've come to understand is that we choose our lives. So I'm not sure the real reasons that she chose it, but as I said, she made me strong. So that was my first experience with brain dead. And then in 2007, my dad was brain dead. So I got the real truth, real experience. Do I miss both of them? They both left things that I will always have. My father taught me to love people. Very valuable. If you're going to have a human existence, it's good to like people. And my mother, as some of you may know, taught me to love music. And that's one of the reasons that I try to arrange to have music at our services as often as possible. So at the end of my mother's life, I had become a licensed massage therapist in New York State. And this was kind of the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. It had started a few years earlier. I think some of you may know it was originally called the gay cancer because gay men were showing up with the symptoms of HIV and AIDS. And I worked with it slightly as a supervisor in the Division of Homemaker Service because we provided homemakers for families that had needs and for disabled adults at one time and so forth. So I had a little taste of HIV and AIDS, but shortly after working for Homemaker Service for about 16 years, I transferred to the New York City Department of Health. And they had a job for an administrative assistant for what was then called Prison Health Service. I'm here to tell you there's very little health in prisons. However, my experience there became largely around HIV and AIDS. And I actually ended up spending 13 years mostly at Rikers Island, but at some other city jails. And I worked with these issues of HIV and AIDS, and ultimately I got a job being the head of a program called CARE. And CARE was the only program at the time that was funded by Ryan White for HIV positive women in jails that had women partners. And I learned a lot in that situation, not the least of which I still take with me today, that we created a term, or we thought we created it, probably somebody else did someplace else, because things happen in multi places at once, if you don't know. And we called it cumulative grief. We called it cumulative grief because all of a sudden, first in the gay community and then in the needle sharing community, people were dying literally like flies. You know, you knew one person in this community, and all of a sudden, several other people were dying. And what we really learned, and what I've come to understand and appreciate now, is that all grief is cumulative. What your experience is with one person dying, you carry over to the next one and the next one. And sometimes it brings back the understanding of how someone had lived, what they had meant to you, what they helped you create in your own life. And so that was about the same point in my life where I was really starting out my massage practice. And I had a couple of people who were terminally ill. They also taught me a lot about grief. So I offer you my physiological assessment of grief. In Asian medicine, acupuncture, acupressure, shiatsu, whatever you want to call it, there are meridians, there are pathways, if you will, and they are related to organs. So in Eastern medicine, we believe that grief is assigned to the lungs. So I share with you that the lung meridian starts here and goes through the palm sides of your arm. And that if you have the opportunity when you're going through grief to either get acupuncture or to get Asian medicine, whether shiatsu or acupressure, I invite you and encourage you to use it. It's a wonderful tool. And sometimes it helps people get at the emotionality of grief. So we said that today's today's topic is planting an intention. So my intention is just simply to be the best me I am able to be. And I think it's now Chris's turn.
Thank you, Jan. It's nice that you talked about the meridians, and we're going to do some work with the meridians. So, when I originally opened up my private practice as a healer, I knew that I was going to specialize in the area of anxiety because it was something that I had gone through and had experienced incredible healing around. Then what happened was I started getting people coming into me for a variety of different present day conditions. And that present day condition could have been a health crisis, it could have been a financial block. I often would have someone say to me, but I'm trying all of the things, and this pattern of lack, this pattern of pain, this pattern of conflict is not resolving. And so the magic of EFT, emotional freedom techniques, and otherwise known as tapping, is that it's a bridge to the subconscious. So it enables us to get to what's behind the blocks. And I was surprised that often the blocks that were behind their current struggles were unprocessed grief, that it showed up far more frequently than I had anticipated. And then I started specializing in it. It was not a specialty I chose, it was a specialty that chose me. And over, I thought, I wonder why I'm getting all of these grieving people coming to see me. Well, they were pointing to an as yet unprocessed grief that was within me that I just hadn't been clear about because it was grieving that had happened in the first few years of my life that I didn't have memories or words for. And so it invited forward a tremendous and powerful healing within my own life, working with these people, understanding the nature of grief, and understanding how any emotional experience that simply isn't allowed to flow is going to show up in our lives as something that is not working. And so, what keeps our emotional energy from flowing? Well, it is a natural human inclination to avoid pain. We as human beings experience something painful. Our natural inclination is to avoid, to distract, to do everything in our power to keep from feeling that pain. And so when that happens, especially in our modern world in which we don't have frameworks for grief, there are some cultures, people that are Jewish, that are a part of a Jewish community, and that could be from conservative to very open, tend to have very powerful support systems in place to deal with people as they're moving through their grieving experiences. So there is sitting with the experience. That's what sitting Shiva is. It's a time period in which people go to the home of someone who has lost someone through death, and they just show up to be there for that person and to hold space for them. It's very, very powerful. But for the rest of us who may be disconnected from a traditional religious system, we haven't done the best job of creating rituals and support systems around loss. And then there's the losses that we don't actually get acknowledgement for. A goal that we were working towards that never worked out, an area of great disappointment, the loss that we experienced during COVID for life as it was. Your favorite store may have gone under during that time period. Grieving for that time period not being able to move without a mask on, right? Grieving for being able to be maskless. So throughout life, we experience loss. We just do. We experience things that change, and we are living in a time of unprecedented change. That things that we are attached to are going to continue to morph and change in different ways. And we can more easily flow with those changes as we move through our pain. And tapping is a brilliant way of doing that. It's also really important to know that we often judge our own feelings. So when people go through the stages of grief, as classically created by Dr. Kubler-Ross, there's times of depression, there's times of anger, right? There's times of questioning or bargaining with God, trying to change the outcome. So there are times when people go through that anger and they feel such guilt about being angry within the loss, it shuts down the experience. And so we're just going to go through an experience together of taking something that's in the present. So pick something that's current for you, that's around loss, that's around change, and allow that to be here in the virtual room with us as we move through, not trying to make it go away, not trying to obliterate it, but allowing it to be here as we gently go through this process. We will be tapping on kidney points, which what Jan just said is about life force energy. And those kidney points this is called K27 in acupuncture. A real power spot is underneath, here's the collarbone or the clavicle. They're right underneath that. That's a very good spot for generally kicking up your life force energy. So I think we're just going to tap there because I don't want to make this too complicated. I really would like you all to be in the experience. So I invite you. This is a very abbreviated version of tapping, but I think it's going to allow us to move through this stuff more quickly so that you're not thinking, am I doing it right? Is my hand in the right place? If we're just on one spot, we can focus on what we are feeling inside and not about technique. So for everyone, please identify something where you're feeling an area of grief or loss of something that changed in a way that you didn't want it to change. And just gently close your eyes if that feels comfortable and allow yourself to be present with that feeling. What's it about? Identify it for yourself. Maybe you have a feeling of grief or sadness within you and you can't even really identify exactly what it's connected to. It could be part of that cumulative grief that Jan spoke about. But what does it feel like when you're feeling it? Does it feel like a heaviness in the chest or a somersault inside of your belly? Does it feel like tension in the shoulders or a pain in your forehead? Where is the sadness and what does it feel like? And if you don't know, just identify with the thought that you're having about it. I'm grieving for this. I wish this had never happened. I wish I could change this and it's not changeable. And then we're going to bring our two hands up to our body under our clavicle. I like to use a couple fingers. You can actually even use all of your fingertips if you'd like to do that. And I'm going to tap like this. I'm sort of alternating back and forth on the points. You could do a flat hand. You could do like a claw like this and hit both of those points. And don't worry if you're on the points. If you're within a couple of inches, you're making an impact. Well, so that we do know. There's no preciseness in energy, believe it or not. And so just begin to tap on those points. Everyone here is muted. If you feel comfortable, you can repeat after me out loud, or you can repeat it in your mind. Even though I'm feeling this grief and sadness. And the reason why is this. And think for yourself, what is the this? What's the source of this for you? And just put some words to that. For just right now. Instead of pushing it away. I'd like to allow the energy to flow. Even though I'm carrying this grief and sadness. And I really wish I didn't feel this way at all. And the reason I'm feeling it is and just fill in the blank. For just this moment, I'm allowing myself to be exactly where I'm at. And I'd really like the energy within this to flow. Good, I'm yawning, so there's some clearing happening out there. So good work, guys. So even though I've been carrying around this grief and sadness, and I haven't exactly even known what to do with it, it can be persistent, hanging around. So for just right now, I am finding my courage to be present with what is, to tap on it, and to allow the energy to flow. So keep tapping, everyone. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose, blow it out. Nice deep breath in, blow it out. Nice deep breath in, blow it out. Nice deep breath in, blow it out. I'm yawning, you may be yawning, you may be experiencing some sighing or some feelings that are coming up. You may even have some tears. If you have tears, please just allow them to be here with us. Tears are healing, and how often we're told not to cry. They are our built-in healing mechanism. So repeat after me. This grief and sadness this loss all the ways I wish it never happened. All the ways I want these feelings to change. The part of me that resents even having to grieve. The part of me that wants to avoid these feelings. I'm just being present and allowing the energy to flow. Nice work, everyone. So keep tapping. Take a couple of deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And check in with that feeling. What was your target? What are you working on? Where's those feelings of grief and loss that are coming up for you in the present? What have you been tapping on? Check in with your body, check in with your mind. And just see what the nature of it is like now. Good. Guys are doing great. And then if you like to, you can repeat after me all this grief and sadness. All this remaining grief and sadness. All this remaining grief and sadness. And all that this grief and sadness has meant to me. I am remembering that everything is made of energy. And energy is designed to flow. That's just what it does. I don't have to make anything happen here. I'm just allowing the energy to flow. Okay. Couple nice deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. check in with what you're working on. Just see how it is. And repeat after me. All this energy that I'm calling grief and sadness. It's safe to allow this energy to flow. Allowing it to flow does not mean that I did not care. It does not mean that I did not love. Allowing it to flow is an act of self-love. So that I can continue to love and love more. After all, that's what I'm here for. So I am setting an intention to allow this remaining energy to flow and flow gently. To come back into balance. And to feel safe within my own emotional body. Trusting that I have everything that I need to feel connection to God. And that connection connects me to everyone and everything that has ever been or will ever be. I rest in my oneness, and I trust that I am safe. And let's put one hand on top of the other and then place it in the center of the chest. We call this the serenity hold. And let's take a couple of deep breaths in once again through the nose, blowing out, breathing in, blowing out. And feel the comfort that you are giving to yourself and to your precious heart right now. Thank you all for coming along with me on that.